everybody. Let's see if this is on. Great. So in our lifetime, today's generation of youth, we're faced with some pretty critical problems, both socially and environmentally, from climate change to global poverty, to food crisis, to a shortage of oil, and the list goes on. We have not yet been a part of the problem so far, but we sure can be part of that solution. Over the last 10 years, I've searched to figure out the best way that I can do my part. And I'm firm to say that the best thing that I can do is to start and be a part of social enterprises. My name is Greg Overholt, and as Blake said, I'm the founder of Students Offering Support, a social venture that I started when I was 19 back at Laurier. And together, what I want to do over the next 13 minutes is talk about social entrepreneurship, the power that it has to change and create real strides to some of the problems our world is facing, and the 6 steps to discover your inner rock starness for those interested in starting a social enterprise. And so to start, you've got to know about the what. So what is social entrepreneurship? Well, a social enterprise is an organization that leverages commercial principles to maximize improvement on human and environmental well-being, instead of maximizing profits for investors. It's the idea of business for good. Okay, so there's a definition, but the best way to see this is to think of the who. Who are these organizations that are social enterprises? And they can be massive corporations, or they can be really small. One that you guys probably know quite well is Goodwill. Goodwill is an organization, a social enterprise, that has 2 awesome aspects to it. One, it takes millions of tons of what would normally be garbage and keeps it back in use and repurposes it in their stores and then sells it to students and people in low-income situations that can't otherwise afford those goods at full price, helping environmentally reduce the landfill demand, as well as helping socially, helping people get access to these goods. An awesome organization. And then you can go to a really small scale. This new startup from Harvard, from 4 grads, created this organization called Socket. Their principle is taking a soccer ball and putting technology within it that when you kick it around, it generates enough charge so that it can create light, have a little socket on the side so that people around the world without access to electricity can have light at the end of the day. And then you take somewhere in between, where my organization, Students Offering Support, we are an organization of student volunteers across Canada that teach first-year students right before exams in group review sessions, accounting, economics, you name it. We ask for $20, and at the end of the year, that money that we generate goes to fund education-based development projects in rural Latin America. These projects aren't just funded by students, they're built by students as we take them on trips and 2 weeks at the end of the year so they can see the power and impact that their time has had over the course of the year. And so those are some examples of social enterprises. Now, the last kind of big question is why? Our society has done such an amazing job of creating an efficient market-based economy. You can have an idea, you can pitch it to Dragon's Den, you can get a boatload of money, then you can take that product that you made, sell it on Amazon, and make a ton of money, right? And going back to your investors and yourself, and so that system that has been built for centuries is extremely efficient. You look at the other side, you look at traditional charities, and they have operated traditionally by asking for donations, individual, corporate donations, fundraisers, and essentially in a rather hard way. Why don't we find a bridge between these 2 worlds? Social entrepreneurship is in the middle, leveraging the fast market economy of the Amazons and all that kind of stuff, business principles, but for social and environmental injustice. And so that is the core, which is why I firmly believe that this is going to be the reason and the biggest impact that we can have as individuals to actually have real change in our lifetime. And so great, you have a little bit of the theory. Now let's talk about actually doing it. And so this is the how. So I've got 6 steps for you if ever interested in actually starting one. And so step 1, we have a problem. And so the first thing you need to know is what is the cause that you care so much about that you want to put all your time, and all, but a lot of your time into? Is it an environmental cause, a social cause? You need to be passionate about it because that passion is what's going to get other people passionate about your cause and get other people around the table, be it customers, be it partners, be it employees or volunteers. It's got to come from the heart. For me in SOS, I've grown up from a family of teachers, and education has always been a big part of my life. And I knew when I got to university, I wanted to do something to help those without access to that type of education that I and my peers are so privileged to have here in Canada. And so I knew that was my problem that I wanted to work towards. Step 2, what's next? We'll see. Find superstars. The next thing you need to do is realize that you can't do this alone. Who's going to help make this happen? And so you need to find teammates, people that you can join with you to make this really happen. Don't find people who owe you $20, because finding people that owe you a debt or do it because you're a friend, they're not the right type of person. You want somebody who also can be passionate about your cause so that together you can work as a team. And so for me and at SOS, the first thing I did was I went to my best friend in university, Stu McKendry, and I said, Stu, I've got this idea to create the social venture on campus, but I need some help. I want to work towards education, and he was in. And here's a picture of the very first day of SOS with me, Stu McKendry, and Dave Cameron at Clubs Day in 2004. And we were there for the sole purpose of finding superstars, other people who could be passionate about what we care about. As you can probably tell, we come from some humble beginnings, as that sign was made for my aunt, and it could use a little bit of work. But needless to say, it's all about getting those people on the table and on the bus, so you can figure out where that bus is going. So let's take a look at step 3. Determine your model and give it a shot. And so when you're thinking around the table with your superstars to figure out how are you actually going to operate, and you have to think of 2 things. One, what is the impact that you're going to have? What is the impact that you want to have in your social and environmental cause? And then as you go and do that, you got to think about how is your organization going to be sustainable? How are you going to sustain the growth and hopeful growth of your organization? And so if it's a phone app in which you want to target students or children who have ADHD to help them focus, great. Well, it's going to be an app that you sell for $4 that is going to generate support back to your organization so you can grow, get it out to more children, do more apps version 2.0. And so you see the social side helping children, but you also see the sustainable side of making sure that your business can grow and flourish. Business principles, social good. Awesome. And so for us, it was the idea that there was also a local need on campus. First-year students have a hard time getting through classes. And so that was a reality that we saw. So we booked some classrooms and we said, hey, how can we help you? And so here's a picture of one of our very first sessions with a couple students helping them get through first-year economics. And so it was all we needed to do to give it a shot, because you can't just sit and think, you've got to actually do it. And so the next step is the idea that as you go, you have to have fun. You have to have fun failing, you have to have fun learning and kicking ass. Now, this is a step that will take, who knows, as long as you continue with this process. And so the best thing that you can do is fail and learn from those failures. Especially at this age, you have very little to risk. It's a chance for you to grow and develop. And so do it. Learn from people, listen to customers, listen to your partners. For us, back in the day, what we realized was that our model of just having a classroom and asking you guys, what don't you know, this didn't work out so well. Because what we realized is that students came to us because they wanted to figure out what I know and what I don't know, not coming with questions, because our generation, if you don't know something, you Wikipedia it, you Google it, you ask a friend. We are very, very resourceful people. And so what we realized is we needed to spend more time beforehand creating an epic presentation to share so you could see what you know and what you don't know. And that change was only due to listening and failing. And so we realized once we flipped the model, we got to a picture here where after our second year, there's 130 students in a room. And those students are all here for economics. And they all paid $20 to be there. In 2.5 hours, we ended up raising $2,600 for a school in Belize, and at the same time helped 130 students do better in economics. And we as volunteers were loving it because we were getting all this cool experience running a social enterprise. It was a true win-win-win. And that's when I really became inspired by this idea of social enterprise, being able to help so many people at the exact same time. And so great, you're growing your enterprise, you're learning. And you have to remember along the whole way, don't be an island because islands don't grow. As a social entrepreneur, there aren't many people like you. You're unique. So you have to make sure you bring people, peers, professors, teachers, advisors into your organization. Get their help at every step of the way, because with their help, it'll allow you to grow. It's so imperative that you do it from day one and to the last day. At SOS, we realized that there was, when we were at university, we included all of our professors and the deans of the schools and the president of the university, not to gloat, but to ask them for help and tell them what we want to do and we want your help. And it came back to us because when we decided that we wanted to close our volunteer model, not just raise money and donate it, but actually take those students down and be a part of that build and process, we asked the school for help. And they came with $5,000 saying, we want to see you guys make this happen, and here's $5,000. And our very first trip to Belize happened in 2007 with 20 other students from Wilfrid Laurier University. We made it happen with the help of all of the people who supported us. And so finally, as you move on in your journey, there may be a time where you need to figure out an inflection point. Do you need to transition out of the organization, or are you ready to develop up? And so in both those situations, the key is thinking about it as early as possible. If you're ready to move on to something else, maybe you're graduating, maybe you're on to another idea, you need to make sure you put in the right amount of time to prepare somebody else to take on that role and to prepare the organization so that it doesn't drop the moment you leave. The number one issue is that people leave that organization and the impact dies. You created the organization to last. Make sure you put the time in properly. Or maybe you're really eager and you want to develop it up and you want to keep working on it. You have to make sure you reflect and say, what are the barriers that I have to making that happen? Maybe it's money, some more capital to actually grow. Maybe it's advice. Maybe it's a board of directors, or maybe it's legal help. Think about that before you make that jump, because if you do it too late, you may not be able to jump. And so, to me, and in our situation, I was ready to graduate university, and I realized I wanted to develop up. I was so enamored by what happened at Laurier in my undergrad. I wanted to help other students at other universities see if it could happen on their campus. And so I worked with the Entrepreneur Center. I worked with all of the advisors that I had in place to say, how do I do this? And let's do this together. And so over the last, I'm so proud to say that over the last 5 years, I've been able to continue doing this and helping thousands of student leaders across this country be social entrepreneurs in their own campus. And it's something that I'm just as passionate now as I was 5 or 10 years ago. And when I look 5 or 10 years out, the one thing I know is I will always be working in social enterprises, be it SOS, be it not SOS, because it is the most impactful thing that I can do with my time. And so 5 and 10 years out from now, I also hope that social entrepreneurship is something that isn't just an industry of a few. It's something that isn't just something that is a growing industry, but social entrepreneurship, or being social entrepreneurial, is something that can be part of every one of you. It can be something from the new Mark Zuckerbergs to the CEO of Microsoft and the CEO of McDonald's, to every teacher, accountant, doctor, and professional hockey player. We can all work to create creative and innovative solutions to not only create new businesses, but shape businesses, to think about creating wealth not just for shareholders, but creating wealth for everybody. Thank you very much.